Good evening, everyone. I've been thinking about something we all experience but rarely talk about. Pain, not the kind you see on a scan or in a report. I'm talking about the invisible kind. The heartbreak, the failure, the loneliness, the rejection, all of it. Let me be brutally honest with you. In this world, your pain is your own, and most of the time, nobody really cares. That's the hard truth. But before you sink into despair, let me tell you that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because when nobody shows up for your pain, when no one claps for your struggle, you learn something powerful. You learn to clap for yourself. You learn to fight for your own light. You learn that validation doesn't come from the world. It comes from within. I've been through my share of setbacks. People saw the red carpets, the awards, the headlines, but they didn't see the tears in the bathroom. They didn't see the anxiety before auditions. The nights I questioned if I was enough, and guess what? No one called to ask, "Hey, are you okay?" You learn to put on your lipstick, straighten your back, and walk out like you own the damn room. Because hiding your pain doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're choosing to rise anyway. You're choosing to be bigger than what tried to break you. You're choosing to tell the world, "I'm not my scars, I'm the woman who lived through them." And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying suppress it. Feel it, honor it, but don't build a home in it. Don't expect people to carry it for you. They won't, and they shouldn't, because your pain, your growth, your journey, it's yours. So if you're out there today, feeling like no one sees what you're going through, I see you. And I want you to know this: the strongest people are not the ones who have it easy. They're the ones who walk through hell in high heels and come out smiling. So wear your pain like armor. Let it fuel you. Let it teach you, and then go out and conquer the world, not because the world is watching, but because you are. Pain is one of the most universal human experiences, yet it is often the most invisible. Every day, people around us are walking with burdens we can't see: heartbreak, fear, loss, failure, and self-doubt. But society rarely pauses to notice. The world keeps spinning. Deadlines don't stop. Expectations remain, and in the midst of all that, your pain becomes your own private battle. This is the reality many face, especially in a world that celebrates strength, success, and surface-level perfection. The truth is, most people are so consumed with their own lives that they don't have the time or emotional space to truly care about what others are going through. It's not necessarily cruelty, it's just how the world works. This realization can feel isolating at first. You may wonder why no one asks how you really are, why no one seems to see the cracks behind your smile, or why your silent struggles go unnoticed. But there's also a strange kind of freedom in that realization. When you understand that your pain is invisible to others, you stop waiting for external rescue. You begin to internalize that the healing, the strength, the recovery, it all has to begin with you. It becomes a process of deep self-awareness and self-compassion. You start to treat yourself with the care and attention that you once hoped to receive from others. In a way, the invisibility of pain teaches you to become your own sanctuary. There's power in carrying your pain with dignity. Not every story needs to be shared to be validated. Not every wound needs to be visible to be real. And just because no one else can see, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter. What matters is how you choose to respond to it. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. The world may not care in the way you hoped, but that doesn't mean you should stop caring for yourself. When you own your pain, when you stop hiding it for the sake of others, and instead face it for yourself, that's when you begin to transform it into strength. You stop being a victim of silence and start becoming the author of your own healing. When support is absent and applause is missing, something powerful begins to grow within you: the ability to rely on yourself. It's easy to feel seen and valued when others recognize your efforts, but the real test of character comes when no one notices the fight you're putting up. In those quiet moments of solitude, when your achievements go uncelebrated and your struggles go unnoticed, you are left with a choice: either give up waiting for external validation or become your own source of strength. It's in those moments that self-reliance is born. When no one shows up to pat you on the back, you learn how to lift your own spirit. You begin to understand that your worth isn't dependent on someone else's recognition. And while that can feel lonely at first, it's also a kind of freedom, because now your drive, your determination, and your dreams are not held hostage by anyone else's approval. You no longer wait for others to say, "You're doing great." Instead, you look in the mirror and tell yourself, I've got this. This journey isn't easy. There will be days when you'll crave support, when a kind word could change everything, and when it doesn't come, it hurts. But slowly, something shifts. You begin to trust yourself more. You start building your own inner voice, one that encourages you, holds you accountable, and keeps pushing you forward. It's in this space of quiet self-motivation that your true power is revealed. You become someone who can rise, not because the world is watching, but because you promised yourself you would. Over time, you find that your success becomes more meaningful. It's not about proving anything to others anymore, it's about proving to yourself that you are capable. That you didn't need the applause to become excellent, that you didn't need a cheerleader to keep going. You became your own source of momentum, and in doing so, you not only become stronger, but you also become unstoppable. What once felt like isolation turns into independence. What once hurt now fuels you, and you realize maybe the silence around you wasn't a punishment, but a path to discovering just how powerful you really are. Strength is often misunderstood. People assume it's about always being confident, always being happy, always being in control. But real strength has nothing to do with smiling when things are easy. It's about continuing to move forward when everything inside you is breaking. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it. True strength is choosing to rise again and again despite the pain. There will be days when you feel like you can't take another step, when life feels too heavy and you wonder if you can keep holding on. Maybe no one notices what you're going through. Maybe people assume you're fine because you don't talk about it, because you don't fall apart in public. But just because they don't see your struggle doesn't mean it isn't real. And just because you hide your pain doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, it means the opposite. It means you've learned how to carry it, how to function with it, and how to grow through it without letting it define you. There is an undeniable bravery in waking up every day and facing a world that doesn't pause for your sorrow. That quiet courage, the kind that keeps going when no one is clapping, the kind that holds back tears just long enough to get through the day, is the kind of strength that's unshakable. You're not pretending everything's fine. You're simply choosing not to let pain stop you. That's not denial, that's resilience. Strength is not about pretending you're unaffected. It's about acknowledging the weight and still choosing to carry it with grace. You don't have to broadcast your struggles for them to be valid. You don't need to crumble in public to prove you're hurting. Rising in silence, holding yourself together when everything is pulling you apart, that's a power the world often overlooks. And yes, it's hard, it's exhausting, but with every step forward, no matter how small, you're proving to yourself that pain doesn't own you. You may carry it, but you're still in control. You're still choosing to rise. And in that choice, in that quiet, relentless decision to keep going, you show the world, and more importantly yourself, what real strength truly looks like. Validation is something we all crave, often without realizing it. From the time we're young, we're taught to seek approval from parents, teachers, friends, even strangers. A compliment, a like, a nod of approval, these things feel good. They tell us we're on the right track, that we're enough. But when we grow too dependent on this external validation, we forget how to hear our own voice. We start to live for applause instead of purpose, and that can be a dangerous place to exist, because the applause won't always come. There will be seasons in your life when no one sees how hard you're trying. You'll make quiet sacrifices, fight silent battles, and no one will notice. And in those moments, if your self-worth is tied to external praise, you'll feel invisible. That's why learning to validate yourself is one of the most powerful things you can do. When you can look at your own reflection and say, I am proud of me. Even when no one else says it, that's where real confidence begins. Internal validation is steady, unlike the approval of others which comes and goes. It doesn't depend on trends or popularity or anyone else's opinion. It comes from knowing your values, your integrity, and your intentions. It's waking up and saying, I know who I am and I know what I'm doing matters. Even if no one is watching, that's not arrogance, that's self-awareness. It's the quiet knowing that you are enough, not because someone else says so, but because you've decided to believe it yourself. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice to silence the noise around you and listen to your own truth. It takes courage to stop performing for approval and start living for authenticity. But once you do, you become unshakable. The praise becomes a bonus, not a necessity. The criticism loses its sting. You stop shrinking yourself to fit someone else's idea of who you should be, and start growing into the person you were always meant to become. When validation comes from within, you're no longer waiting to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself, and in a world that's constantly trying to tell you who to be, that kind of inner clarity is the most powerful rebellion of all. Pain is not something to be ignored or buried. It is a natural and necessary part of being human. When you go through something difficult, it is okay to feel broken, lost, or overwhelmed. Ignoring pain doesn't make it go away. It just delays the healing. So the first step is to allow yourself to feel it, sit with it, understand it, let it teach you what it needs to. There is a kind of wisdom that only pain can offer, a kind of clarity that only comes through discomfort. But the important thing to remember is that while pain is meant to be felt, it is not meant to be a permanent place where you live. Too often, people get stuck in their pain. They carry it like a badge, return to it like a habit, and begin to identify with it so deeply that they forget who they were before it. The danger is not in feeling too much, it's in staying there too long. Pain is a visitor, not a resident. It comes to signal something, to guide change, to mark growth. Once it has served its purpose, you have to learn to let it go. That doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means choosing to move forward while still honoring what it taught you. You can cry, you can break, you can even fall apart, but you must also be willing to rebuild. Healing doesn't mean forgetting the pain, but it means not allowing it to control you. It's about shifting from, "Why did this happen to me?" to "What can I learn from this?" That shift in mindset is where true resilience begins. It's where growth happens. You stop being a prisoner of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. It's important to have compassion for yourself during hard times, but equally important is to challenge yourself to rise. Feel the pain, absolutely, but then find a way to move with it, not just sit in it. Use it as fuel. Let it refine your perspective, your strength, your story. Your scars are proof that you've endured, but they don't have to define who you are. You are allowed to feel deeply, but you are also strong enough to stand up again. That's where your power lies, in feeling it all and still choosing to grow. Pain, when carried with intention, can become one of the most powerful sources of growth and transformation. While it can feel like a burden, like something meant to break you, it also holds within it the potential to build you. Every hardship, every heartbreak, every silent struggle leaves behind a lesson, a piece of strength you didn't know you had. The challenge is not just to survive those moments, but to find meaning in them, to take what was meant to tear you down and use it as the foundation to rise even higher. That is how pain becomes power. Often, it's the darkest experiences that teach you the most about yourself. When you're forced to navigate life without a safety net, you learn how resourceful you are. When your heart breaks and no one seems to notice, you discover the depth of your emotional resilience. When you fail and fall and still choose to get back up, you learn that you are stronger than circumstances. These aren't lessons you can learn from comfort. They're earned through experience, through endurance, and through the quiet determination to not let your pain be the end of your story. The world doesn't always reward vulnerability, but you don't need the world's permission to turn your pain into something beautiful. Channel it into your ambition, into your creativity, into your purpose. Let it shape your perspective, deepen your empathy, and sharpen your focus. The very experiences that try to break you can be the ones that fuel your rise, if you choose to let them, and that choice is everything. Because pain on its own does not give you power. It is what you do with it that matters. You have the ability to turn every scar into a symbol of survival, every loss into a lesson, every setback into a setup for your comeback. This isn't about pretending the pain didn't happen, it's about refusing to let it define your future. You own your story, even the hard chapters, especially the hard chapters. They are the ones that built you. So stand tall, not despite what you've been through, but because of it. Let your pain sharpen your strength, and let that strength be the reason you rise, again and again and again.